Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a really fascinating piece of curriculum from the Academy. We'll be looking at a lesson that attempts to bridge the gap between the physical science of our cosmos and the profound truths found in Scripture. This specific material investigates not just what's happening out there in the deep reaches of space, but the meaning that the curriculum's authors find behind it all. Now, before we really get going, I want you to just stop and think about this simple but honestly massive question. When you step outside on a clear evening and look up at the night sky, it feels incredibly peaceful, right? But is everything up there just sitting perfectly still? Are those stars and galaxies just glued to a massive black canvas, unchanging and unmoving? Keep that thought in your head as we move forward. Here's our agenda for the source material we're covering today. 1. A universe in motion. 2. Hubble and the redshift. 3. The balloon analogy. 4. The divine architect. 5. Lesson review. And finally, 6. Education and biblical morality. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1. A universe in motion. The curriculum kicks things off with a foundational pillar. For a really long time in human history, people genuinely thought the stars were just fixed in place. And hey, it makes sense, right? To the naked eye, the constellations look exactly the same year after year. But here's the thing. The cosmos is absolutely not standing still. Recent discoveries over the last century have proven that the universe is actually stretching outwards. It's this magnificent, highly active system that is expanding in literally all directions, every single second of every single day. Moving on to Section 2, Hubble and the redshift. To understand how we actually know the universe is expanding, the lesson looks at some groundbreaking science. Picture this. The year is 1920. Back then, our understanding of the scale and movement of space was incredibly limited. But in the 1920s, a brilliant astronomer named Edwin Hubble made a discovery that completely changed science forever. At the very core of Hubble's discovery is a concept called redshift. So let me explain how this works. Light travels in waves. When an object in space is moving away from us, the light waves it emits actually get stretched out. And in the visual spectrum of light, those stretched out waves shift toward the red end of the spectrum. Hubble noticed this exact redshift using special astronomical tools, and it proved, without a doubt, that distant galaxies aren't just sitting out there. They are actively moving away from us. And this groundbreaking observation gave us what's known as Hubble's law. It's the scientific observation that the farther away a galaxy is, the faster it's moving away from us. This was a massive piece of the puzzle. Today, scientists use this exact law to estimate the overall age of the universe, trace the movement of countless galaxies, and even figure out the mathematical models behind the Big Bang. Which brings us to Section 3, the balloon analogy. Okay, so visualizing millions of galaxies hurtling away from each other in deep space, that can be pretty tough to wrap your mind around. So the curriculum brings it down to earth with something you can actually hold. Imagine you've got a deflated balloon, and you take a marker and draw a bunch of little dots all over it. Those dots represent galaxies. Now, as you blow air into that balloon, what happens? The rubber stretches, and every single dot moves further away from every other dot. The dots themselves aren't walking across the rubber. The actual surface between them is expanding. Just like drawing those dots and watching them move apart as you blow it up, the galaxies in our universe are spreading apart because space itself is expanding. Next up, Section 4, the divine architect. The curriculum notes that science does a wonderful job showing us the what and the how, the structure and movement of space. But to understand the why, the material pivots to theology, asking a really big question. Think back to that balloon analogy. A balloon doesn't just inflate on its own, does it? It just sits there until someone physically picks it up and blows air into it. So the lesson asks, if the universe is expanding like that balloon, who blew the breath into our expanding universe? Who set all of this incredibly complex motion into action? To answer this, the course material points to Jeremiah 10:12. The curriculum highlights that thousands of years before Edwin Hubble was even born, way before anyone had the tools to detect redshift, the biblical text described an intelligent designer who stretched out the heavens with understanding and purpose. The lesson really emphasizes how these modern astronomical discoveries mirror ancient scriptures. It goes a step further, using Colossians 1:17, arguing that this wasn't just a one-time event. The curriculum teaches that a divine presence remains actively involved right now, currently holding all this incredible, vast movement together so that the universe maintains its order and doesn't just fall into total chaos. Think of it this way. If you go to a theater and you see a dozen dancers moving around the stage with absolutely perfect precision, never colliding, totally in sync with the music, you instantly know a choreographer designed that routine, right? It didn't just happen by accident. In that same vein, the curriculum suggests that the specific rules, the physics, and the precise speeds of our expanding universe point directly to a divine architect. Order, the lesson argues, implies an orderer. All right, moving to Section 5, Lesson Review. The course wraps up this segment by testing the students' grasp on everything. For the review assignments, students are asked to reflect on the hard science of redshift, how it proves the galaxies are moving, and the theological concepts of a sustaining power. They're challenged to answer these exact questions, connecting the two realms. The curriculum posits that understanding this connection is where true wisdom really begins.
And finally, Section 6, Education and Biblical Morality.
As we wrap up our look at this curriculum, we get to the core philosophy behind the Hero Smart Academy series, which is simply this: education without morality will hurt. The material poses a tough question to its students. What is the point of being highly educated in science, math, or literature if we lack a moral compass and keep making choices that hurt ourselves and the people around us? Being smart just isn't enough. The lesson asserts that true wisdom comes only when worldly learning is intertwined with biblical morality. The course ties this whole approach back to a promise found in Romans 8, 6-7, suggesting that a mind governed by the Spirit brings life and peace. By viewing education through this spiritual lens, rather than just, purely accumulating academic facts, the lesson teaches that students can find genuine peace of mind, and that is framed as the ultimate goal of all true learning. So I want to leave you with a final thought based on what we've explored today. As you step outside tonight and look up at those expanding stars, consider the incredible forces at work. Will you choose to be what this course calls a godly learner? Whether you look at the stars purely through a telescope or through the lens of faith, the curriculum begs a really universal question. How will you use your growing knowledge of this vast, magnificent universe to bring order, wisdom, and peace to your own life? Keep looking up and keep learning.